So it is that time again, guys. We've got some big games to talk about today. So welcome back to our weekly championship score predictions. Like I mentioned before, some big games to go ahead and predict. Make sure to get your score predictions in the comments down below. All this weekend's games will be listed in the description so you can go ahead and make your predictions. If we take a quick look into the prediction league, we've got the same leader still at the top. I've actually dropped out of the top 6, but I still remain quite competitive in 7th place at the moment. As you can see, there's not all too much in it. And before we do hop into it, a big shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. As always, you can also find the new OneFootball app in the top line of the description down below. To keep up to date with all the games that are going on in the championship this weekend, OneFootball is the place to be. You can get live updates to your phone whenever a goal goes in, and you can also look at the games in a little bit more detail as well. When we do the championship roundup, I always like to pick out a couple of the key stats from the games and things like that, and OneFootball is really handy to do that. See who's playing well for your clubs and the opposition as well, who to look out for, so link down below. But without any further ado, let's hop into this one. And so starting out with tonight's game, it's going to be a feisty one at the City Ground as we see Nottingham Forest going up against Derby. Now, it's been a less than desirable start to the season for each side, and they'll see this game as a bit of an opportunity to hopefully springboard their season. Goals have been fairly hard to come by for both sides, and in this fixture actually, it's tended to be quite a low scoring one. 4 of the last 5 meetings in the league between these two sides, there's been 1 or less goals scored, and the time that there was more than 1 goal scored was their last meeting at Derby County. It was a 97th minute equaliser from Chris Martin, and that was sort of where Forest started to really falter last season, wasn't it? But for this game, how do I see it going? In yesterday's video, I asked the question to Forest fans, what do you do with Lewis Grobban at the moment? He's a player who's not particularly playing with much confidence in front of goal. He missed another sitter in midweek, however, did do quite well to set up the goal, and is of course wearing the captain's armband at the moment. It would be typical if he popped up with the winner in this one after some of the chances that he's missed so far this season. For Derby, they're still going to be without Wayne Rooney, but they do have Martin Wycombe coming back into the equation, which gives them a little bit more of a boost going forward, I'd say. Wycombe came off the bench from Derby's defeat against Huddersfield. Honestly, I don't think there'll be many goals scored in this one. Both sides have struggled to hit the back of the net so far this season, and I can't see that changing in this one. I think it's going to be quite a cagey one where neither side wants to give away too much, and in the end it's probably going to be decided by a mistake or something like that. My gut is telling me that Forest may squeeze through this one. I think that with the bounce they may start to get under Chris Hughton, obviously winning the draw so far. In recent weeks, I've seen more from Forest than I have from Derby, I think. So I'm just going to edge Forest for a 1-0 home victory. And FIFA's going to agree with me there. It wouldn't surprise me if it ended level, but I'm just swaying towards the home side, I think, in this one. After that, into Saturday's games, we then see Watford going up against Bournemouth. Now, two sides, obviously, 2 of the relegated clubs going up against each other, who have started the season out really well. Both teams have kept things fairly tight at the back so far. Watford especially do not concede many goals. It was a really interesting game they had in midweek against Blackburn, whereby without the ball they were brilliant and they certainly took their chances going forward, but Ben Foster had an absolute worldie of a game to keep the scoreline down in that one. And Bournemouth do have quite a few players similar to Blackburn who can play a dynamic forward line who will cause Watford some problems, but Watford, like I say, do not give away much to the opposition, do they? Bournemouth, I thought, got probably quite unlucky not to win at Cardiff actually with some of the chances that they had going forward. Alex Smithies for Cardiff had a terrific game in that one, so Bournemouth in some aspects got a little bit lucky and obviously are unbeaten in the league so far this season. How do I see this one going? It's another one where I see it being a fairly low scoring one, whereby one chance is going to decide this one. Watford, things are starting to click for them moving forward. We are seeing them scoring more goals now. I think that partnership between Pedro and Sarr could really be something throughout this season. Score prediction time, and once again I think I'm swaying towards the home side. I'm going to go 1-0 Watford in this one, whereas FIFA's going 1-0 Bournemouth. It does have that sort of 1-0 feeling either way to it. Next up then we go to Bristol City against Swansea, 2 sides with top 6 ambitions come the end of the season. Swansea so far have probably been more impressive away from home than they have been at home. They're still unbeaten away, although last time's performance against Coventry did leave a little bit to be desired. They were second best for quite a bit of that game, but Bristol City will themselves be looking to bounce back from what was quite a poor performance against Middlesbrough, who really did a job on them with their away performance. It was a horrendous mistake in the end, which led to Middlesbrough walking away with a 1-0 away victory. But like I say, for this game, once once again, not all too much in it. It's a tough game week to predict this one. With Swansea, the key man to look out for at the moment is, of course, Andre Ayew. He scored in 3 of his last 4 matches, and even when Swansea aren't playing well, this was something that I picked up on in midweek. When you got a player like Ayew, he only needs one chance and can just flip the game on its head like that. So Bristol City will have to be cautious and look out for any silly mistakes not happening this time. Score prediction time. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I see these two sides cancelling each other out. I don't think there'll be all too much in it between them, and Swansea have set up fairly good away from home so far to limit the opposition, and FIFA's actually going to agree with me for that one. And then coming up next, we got Cardiff versus Middlesbrough. Now, I don't think that this game's going to be winning any prizes for being the prettiest game of football this weekend. However, both sides have played effective football so far this season. Talking about Middlesbrough first of all, I don't think we've given them enough credit really for how good they've been defensively. If we look at the table so far, they've played all of the sides who currently occupy the top 4 places in the league, and they've only conceded 2 goals against them. Obviously, kept back-to-back clean sheets against Reading and against Bristol City, who currently sit in those top 2 places at the moment. Going up against this Cardiff side, who I also have been impressed with defensively so far, this is the sort of game where Sean Morrison really buzzes off, and it is the sort of game where you can see it being won off a set piece or something like that, can't you? Cardiff in midweek, we saw Harry Wilson get off the mark with his first goal. He is someone who can conjure up something out of nothing. But Middlesbrough are a tough opposition to play at the moment. Since the opening day defeat against Watford, where there really wasn't a lot in the game, they have yet to lose. I think that Warnock's getting the best out of a lot of players at the moment. Paddy McNair's been absolutely brilliant. Sam Morsey's been a really nice addition into that midfield. Score prediction, I'm going to go for a 1-0 Middlesbrough away win. I think that Neil Warnock may pull something off in this one against his former side, but I really don't think there'll be a lot in that one. FIFA's going to say it'll be a 1-1 draw. It's going to be interesting nonetheless. Coming up next, we've then got Coventry going up against Blackburn. Now, this one I can see being quite an entertaining game, actually. Both sides will be looking to bounce back from dropping points last time out. Obviously, Coventry against Swansea, where I thought they maybe got a little bit unlucky not to go on and win that game. They probably did enough to go on and win that one with Swansea's levels dropping. And Blackburn against Watford was a really topsy-turvy game, whereby they gave away a couple of cheap goals, but moving forward, it was the Blackburn that we've come to expect so far this season in terms of chances created, looking to get players moving in behind. You know, they had been a little bit slack from their previous 2 matches failing to score, but it looked like Blackburn had a bit of their mojo back going forward. Obviously, Adam Armstrong being unlucky to miss that penalty, and obviously Armstrong going up against his former side Coventry in this one. This is where I can see him getting back within the goals. If they keep their performance levels the same as they did in that Watford game, I think they probably go on to win this one, actually. So I'm going to edge the away side for this one. I'm going to go 2-1 Blackburn, with FIFA saying it'll be 1-0 to the away side. Like I say, can see goals being scored in that one, could go either way, but I just fancy Blackburn for it. And then coming up next, we've got Huddersfield versus Preston North End. Another tough game to predict. Huddersfield unbeaten in their last 4 matches and have been one of the surprise packages so far, I'd say, with how well they've started and their expectations at the start of the season. But Carlos Colbrand's got them playing a certain type of way. It was a brilliant goal they scored in midweek, working it all the way from the back. But they are going up against the North End side, who has been impressive away from home so far this season. I think it's fair to say all our points so far have come away. We've yet to lose on the road. And I think that if you look at the type of opposition whereby Preston play best against, it is those teams who look to play with the ball and look to come on to us a little bit more, where we can press you into those uncomfortable situations. What we've really struggled to break down so far was probably a Huddersfield side from last season under the Cowleys. You know, that game finished 0-0. Teams that sit deep in a low block and don't give a lot away and look to hit you on the counter, we really struggle with that type of opposition. But if you looked at the sort of teams that we have picked up points against so far this season, Brentford, QPR and Norwich, they're all teams who look to play with this fluid sort of system. So in some ways, with the new philosophy that Huddersfield are angling for, you feel like this game could suit North End a little bit. Obviously, we did win in midweek 2-0 against QPR thanks to 2 penalties in that one. Despite the run that Huddersfield are on at the moment, I've got a bit of a good feeling about Preston with this one. I think I predicted us to draw every game so far this season, so I'll go out on a limb with this one and say that Preston are going to win by 2-1. But Huddersfield, like I say, have looked good so far, and our defence is still a little bit shaky, I'm not going to lie. I will say 2-1 North End though. FIFA's going to say it'll be a 1-1 draw. I'm interested to see how it turns out, that one. Coming up next, we've then got Millwall going up against Barnsley. Now, Barnsley have been a funny old side to predict so far this season. Their last 2 matches have ended as 2-2 draws. Obviously, they're still on the hunt for a new permanent manager, and until that happens, they're sort of just in limbo though for the season, aren't they? It's been a bit of a... It's not been the greatest of starts to the season, similar to last time round really, where they gave themselves a lot of catching up to do come the end of the season because of how poorly they started. But there were more positive signs from that game in midweek against Stoke, you know, up against the defence who don't give away all too many chances. They got in behind quite a few times. Cully Woodrow was quite effective whereby the way he was playing, but Millwall are a tough side to go up against at this moment in time. They've started the season well, find themselves in the top 6 at the moment. It was an impressive performance in midweek, 2-0 against Luton, where they were looking comfortable. One of the few sort of criticisms of Millwall so far this season was that they don't possibly create enough chances per 90, but they created a hell of a lot in that game against Luton. Kenneth Hogg off the bench in that one. I'm interested to see how he impacts this Millwall side going forward this season. And of course, Jed Wallace is the man in form at the moment. Whatever he touches turns to goals. Score prediction, I am fancying the home side for this one. I think that their sort of pragmatic approach will do over Barnsley perhaps, although we'll see if Barnsley can press them and look to up the tempo of this one. But score prediction time, I'm going to go 2-0 Millwall, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be 2-0 Barnsley. Coming up next, we then have Norwich going up against Wycombe. Now, Norwich, you feel as if haven't really clicked out of second gear so far, but even with that, they've still picked up, you know, a steady amount of results so far this season. In midweek, beating Birmingham by 1-0. Mario Varancic with a late goal to win that one in the end, but it probably was Norwich's most complete performance so far this season, and Birmingham probably approached that game similar to how Wycombe are going to come into this one. They look to sit deep, frustrate Norwich, and then look to hit them on the counter-attack. Obviously, it nearly worked for them up until they conceded that goal late on, but do Wycombe have the same quality in those defensive options that Birmingham do? I'm not sure. It's been a tough start for Wycombe so far this season, whereby it was again another defeat for them in midweek as they lost against Reading. There wasn't all too much in that game. It was a bit of quality which won the game for Reading in the end, but with the options that Norwich have going forward, it's hard to see past a home win in this one. Dale Falk has been experimenting lately with sort of those two forward options in there, whereby Jordan Hugill and Timu Pukki have both been starting together, looking to form that partnership. I do think that Hugill plays better in a forward too, so having Pukki to play off him, I'm sure it won't be too long before he really gets up and going for the season. Obviously, Emi Buendia and Todd Cantwell are two fantastic options to play alongside. Score prediction, I'm going to go 2-0 Norwich. They've not been the most free-scoring side so far this season, but I do think they'll get through this one. As FIFA said, it'll be a 1-1 draw. Next up to London as we go to QPR up against Birmingham. Neither side playing with all too much confidence at the moment after they both got off to a good start to the season, winning on the opening day. Neither side has won since, so they're both without a win in their last 5 matches now. Starting out with Birmingham against Norwich, it was clear to see what the game plan was. They tried to nick a point there, and up until late on when Clayton got that red card and then they conceded it, the game plan almost paid off. What I want to see from Birmingham from now though is them going for games a little bit more, looking to play on the front foot, because they have those dynamic attackers in that side. We all know what Aitor Karanka is all about though. It's all about building from the back and having that solid foundation behind them, and they haven't been conceded all too many goals, but when you're not scoring at all, it's hard to win football matches. QPR, it was a very frustrating game for them in midweek up against Preston. Lee Wallace gave away 2 penalties. The left back situation does look a little bit worrying, with Ryan Manning obviously leaving on transfer deadline day. Honestly, I don't think there'll be all too much in it between these two sides, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them cancel each other out. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, and FIFA's going to agree with me. Next up, we then go to Reading as they face off against Rotherham. Now, one thing that we've not touched on for Reading, obviously it's been a really impressive start, but how good they've been defensively. They've only conceded 1 goal so far from their opening 6 fixtures, so 5 clean sheets is massively impressive in a league as competitive as the Championship. We've all spoken about, you know, where they could come undone throughout the season in terms of how many chances they create, but while they're not conceding, they'll continue to churn out these points. It's another good opportunity for them to do so in this one as well. Rotherham will cause them more problems than Wycombe did in midweek. It was probably Reading's worst performance of the season so far in midweek, but they still got through it. Lucas Jow with a real moment of quality. It was an absolutely sublime finish, the way he took that ball down and finished it, and with a player like Jow up front, you always stand a chance of picking something up from the games, don't you? But like I say, I think that Rotherham will look to press Reading a lot higher up the pitch and cause them a few more problems going forward than Wycombe did, who were a little bit too passive in that one to cause them all too many problems. But Reading so far have stood up to pretty much everyone that stood in their way, and I think they just about get through this one as well. I'm going to go for a 1-0 home victory and Reading to continue their impressive start to the season, whereas FIFA saying that that bubble will burst and Rotherham will win 2-0. After that, we then go to Hillsborough as Sheff Wednesday take on Luton. Now, I think that Wednesday are playing Luton at a decent point in time, really. Luton, after starting the season out well, their last 2 performances haven't really gone to plan with back-to-back losses. The game they had in midweek, probably you could even argue that the 2-0 scoreline flattered them a little bit. Millwall was certainly on top throughout that one, but Sheff Wednesday themselves couldn't really stack up against a good Brentford side. I thought that Luongo was a big miss in midfield. He's going to be missing out of this game as well. We've already touched on Luongo for a few times so far this season. season and how integral he is to that Wednesday midfield. But they do have the possibility of a couple of others coming back into it. Izzy Brown, for one, who has been back in training against his former side, could conjure up something from midfield. It was also good to see Callum Patterson getting his first goal as well. He's off the mark for the season now. And to be honest, I do think that Wednesday may get through this one. I think it's important for them that they continue to churn out the results at home and that they don't let a bit of bad momentum really get to them. You know, if they do go on sort of a 3 or 4 game losing streak, when they still have this minus on the board, that's when things can start to get a little bit sticky. But I do think they'll get through this game. We're going to go 2-1 Wednesday. With Leaf same, it'll be a 1-1 draw. And then we'll finish today with Stoke going up against Brentford. This was obviously a massive fixture in Brentford's season last time round, where Stoke ended their 8-game winning run, beating them by 1-0. And looking on it on the face of things, it's two, different styles going up against each other. I think a lot of people will probably be backing Brentford for a win in this one with the way they're playing at the moment. Ivan Turner's on absolute fire, back-to-back braces, 2 goals again in midweek against Sheffield Wednesday. He's popping up in all the right positions at the moment, and with the creativity he's got around him, will continue to thrive throughout the season. However, I see Stoke being a bit of a bogey side for Brentford once again this season. It wasn't their best performance of the season so far in midweek against Barnsley, but they came back from behind twice in that one and could have won it late on with some of the chances they had. I thought the first half they were off the pace a little bit, but looked to rectify that going into the second. Don't get me wrong, Brentford have the firepower to blow anyone out of the water in this division, but there will come a few times throughout the season where they can become a little bit unstuck. Obviously, we saw that on the opening day against Birmingham. This could be another one of those occasions. FIFA is back in Stoke for all 3 points. I'm not sure I'm that brave, but I may see them getting a point. I'm going to go for a 1-1 with FIFA going for 1-0 Stoke. But guys, there we have it there, all my championship score predictions for what I see happening this weekend. So do get your thoughts in the comments down below for a chance to be involved in the next video. Get your comments on screen and also get yourselves onto that prediction league as well. It's getting very interesting in there at the moment. But apart from that, thanks so much for watching, guys. If you went on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and please do subscribe for a bit of regular championship content. But apart from that, thanks for watching and I'll see you all in the next one.